a catalog for domestic assistance number. The federal government have their programs listed by number. That's the way you can search. You can go online and look for catalog for domestic assistance. You can find a whole list of numbers. And if you have the time, you can go through those numbers and pull out the numbers that you think will fit what you're planning to do. And look that up on grants.gov. You can put that number in, and all the grants for all federal agencies will come up under that one CFDA number. And also there's called the Notice of Federal Assistance and a federal such, and use the Housing Urban Development use this word. They use the word called NOFA. The federal government love to use abbreviations, but this is HUD. If you have a relationship or partnership with a public housing division or public housing agency, I will ask them to see what services they're providing now, because when that NOFA comes out, it has some type of service that they must provide in public housing. So if you have a chance, if you see anything from the NOFA, look at it, see if something you can have a conversation with the public housing agencies. In the federal search, you can also find out eligibility. Are your nonprofits are eligible for this federal funding? Not every funding that comes out from the federal government is eligible for nonprofits. So please make sure you know your eligibility before you start to spend your time reading and writing something that you're not even eligible for. Also, there is called the executive summary. Each funding have a little blog about what they're looking for. So that's another way that you can identify your idea or your problem to see if there's something you really want to spend your time to looking at and start writing for. In the federal government, they have something called funding opportunities. There's a whole list. You can sign up to grant.gov, and you can get every day you can receive an announcement from one agency in the federal government, depending on the list that you provide for them. There's a list, there's a checklist that you can put in there, and it will send you emails every time funding opportunities open for that particular agency. Also, in the federal government, they have something called funding opportunity numbers. It's about a 15-digit number that they use for funding opportunities. You will see that once you go online and put your CFDA number in. Anything that comes up, it has a funding opportunity number. It's usually the agency, the year, and then there's a number to identify what type of funding it is. Due dates for federal search. At one point in time, years gone by, they had you could have at least 60 days to write an application. Now, those days is narrowed down to sometime 30 days and sometime 33 days, but the time is getting shorter and shorter every year, I notice. So make sure that you search previously. Also, the federal government have something called a forecast. You can look at by funding opportunity, and they'll have a forecast of grants that's coming out. They'll let you know what date they hope to release that date. So for instance, if I want to look for capacity building and I look at type in capacity building and I see HHS, Health and Human Services, has a capacity building grant. But when I look at it, I pull it up, there's a forecast. It won't be released until April of 2021. Then that gives you time to prepare and be on the lookout for that particular grant. There's always forecasts out there. Sometimes the forecast changes 2 or 3 times a year, but always be aware that once you see forecasts, that money, it will be released. And like I said before, there's a funding for every federal agency. You can punch in what agency you want to look at, and all the funding for that agency will come up on grants.gov. So we have the website for you, www.grants.gov. You can search there, as well as while you're there, go ahead and register. You never know when you want to apply for a grant, and you want to make sure you get approval to apply, because you can't apply for a federal grant unless you're registered through grants.gov. Any questions on that one, David?
No questions on that right now, but I do have one question to go back to. When we were talking about Candid.org, Andrew had a question. Can it be accessed from the internet if you use your library card?
I don't know that one. I just know once you go, well, since COVID, you could probably change things now. You can look on your local library and find out from there if you can use it that way. I'm not sure on that one.
Fantastic. That's it.
State search. Let's talk about searching through the state of Florida. All Florida funding goes through this particular one website. www.myflorida is a vendor search. You can search by state agency. You can search by contracts and grants. You can search by deadlines. You can search by time periods. One thing I want to talk about is funding amount. Most state fundings, you have to read through the entire announcement. It's not like foundation, they will have it on the very screen that you can see it. But for state funding, you have to read through the entire document to find what the funding amount is and how many they will be funding, what the limit. Also, you may want to look at most state grants have in-kind and cash match that's required. Also, make sure your state search aligns with your mission and your vision that you have already developed for your agency. And some state grants / contract, I'm gonna say that, that don't be fearful when you say the word contracts. It's a legal document. Grants is that hopefully you can do this document, but contracts, I mean, you have to do the documents. But most state funding now are turning into contracts. At one point in time, they were grants, but now they're turning the majority, I would say 95% are contracts now. And once those contracts are out, you have a search. You'll read the entire document and find out if they're a fixed price, which means that they're going to pay you for a specific service, or if they're cost reimbursement, that means you spend the money first and they reimburse you. So there's the website that's there for you. So you can search through the Florida, myflorida.com, the vendor bid system, that's what it's called. I would suggest that maybe sometime this week you go out there and play with the system a little bit to get familiar with it. Okay. And there's also corporation search. We didn't have a specific site to give you for that, but David and I was talking and he said that Walmart Foundation has their Money's Out, which is a corporation, and they turn some of their earnings into to their foundation. And or Walmart.org has their funding out now. I think it came out February 1st, David. Yes.
That's correct.
February 1st, and they have different areas of focus. I know education is one of those. Hunger is another. Make sure that your mission aligns with the corporation mission as well. And like I said, there's the types of grants that they have. Different corporations have different types of grants. Another one is Duke Energy has a corporation grant as well, which have various focuses. They have a STEM focus. They have a nature type focus, energy focus also. And I think another one is locally, Clay Electric has one as well. I think Clay is ongoing. There's no deadline to Clay Electric. Also look at what they funded previously in your area, the local organization, local corporations. Also look at their annual reports and see what their focus was, what they really, what was the percentage of money that they actually spent on certain projects. Then you could tell whether your project aligns with what they're willing to fund. And also corporations, their board members, sometimes it's best to see if when their board members meet, so you could be a part of that meeting and let somebody know who you are and what your organization really does. So that's one way to get in our area for corporations to search for funding for corporations. I would suggest that everybody go online to walmart.org today and look at that foundation, because you have to deal with the local stores depending on what type of funding you want to get from Walmart. In our last session, I had this same slide up. In the pre-application, we talked about what is the problem. Let's think about the program idea. Let's think about what goals and objectives and outcomes you want. Let's think about what other funding support you may need and what your estimated budget will be. This will make grant writing much easier for everyone. If you do the pre-application process, you're taking that information, actually putting it into your grant application. So today I'm going to take pre-application ideas and put it into a grant application today. We're going to see how both of those things align. Okay, my idea is teen pregnancy. My problem is teen pregnancy exists in my neighborhood, in my community, in my county, in my state, in my nation. So I know what my idea is. So I know what to search for. I know what to look for. I know what type of program I can implement. I know what my organization history is. I know all these things already because I did the pre-application process. So that's why it's so important to go back and do your pre-application process. It makes grant writing much easier for you to get an application and don't have any idea what you're gonna do. And now you're stuck on a deadline. You may have to spend 2 weeks thinking about the problem and the idea, and now you only have 1 week to write. Sleepless nights are not good in grant writing. So this is my idea. This is my problem. What is my starting point when I find a proposal that I'm willing to look for? Read the instructions. Read the instructions. Read the instructions. That is so important. For my history or for my way I do it, everybody can do their own. I actually go through the proposal or the RFP, request for proposal, the instructions, and I highlight everything that says it's a requirement. I highlight different color highlights for me. Everybody's different, but then make sure I go back and make sure I have every single thing that's a requirement. Also, you look at your submission. Is it paper or online? I think everybody's doing mostly online now, but some people are still doing paper. Make sure you know when the submission date is. Don't mail it the date that it's due and say you had a stamped date, the date of the due date. It has to be in the office by the due date. Also, make sure you know that how many copies are required. And if you're online now, there's some agencies will only let you attach 2 files. One file will be your program, your narrative, and the next file will be your attachments. If you can't get them in those 2 files, you may get kicked out, or they will delete the one file that need all the information that you need to get past the process. So make sure you read the instructions very carefully. And I put font and signature here because I had a history of back in my days, I had a position where I actually did proposals and I did the review process, and applications came in, we scored them. We looked at whether responsive responded, whether responsible responded. And the instruction said, your application must be signed in blue ink. 3 applications came in with black ink. We threw them out. They were not responsive because it was not signed in blue ink. That's why I said, go back and highlight all the important informations. Of course, the person that did that came to our office, but it said blue ink. Also, make sure you're looking at deadlines. Deadlines are critical. And some proposals, some RFPs use the word have you to apply. So you need a letter of intent that shows them how many people are going to submit applications. Keep them knowing on the other side how many applications we're expecting, what's going to be our workload. So it lets them know that you do plan to apply, and they'll be looking for your application. And also, please make sure you register. If there's a website that you have to put your application in, upload your application, make sure you register in time, because sometimes systems crash. Sometimes they're stalled. They really don't listen at that, whether you think it crashed or not. It doesn't matter. They gave you a due date. If you choose to wait to the last minute, you just wasted 3-4 weeks of time that you can't get your application in. Also, be careful. I've noticed lately, applications are not due by 5 o'clock anymore. Sometime are due to 11. They're changing the time of submissions now. So that's another requirement you need to look at. May have an application due next Thursday. And if it's due next Thursday, that means due by 5 o'clock. Usually the close of business days. That's what it usually be. But now it's 11 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. So be very careful about, as part of the requirements, make sure you notice those deadlines. Also, page limits. Look at that as well when you're starting to write your application. How many pages or each section required? Some statement need going to be 3 pages. Make sure you know that your pages, pages of completed application. If you have more pages than they required, they would take off the excess pages and trash them, because then the main information that you need may be on those pages that they're taking off. So please make sure you notice that as well. And also the requirements, what the attachments are concerning. Do you have to attach your resume? Do you have to have the job description? Do you have to have your MOUs from your partners? Do you type your org chart? Those are some attachments that are required as well. The starting point is spend at least a day reading the RFP, the proposal, the RFP, because it's very important you understand each requirement, because that can cause you to not be able to get in the grant process. Okay, once I read my RFP, now I'm looking at what's my scores. Where is the scoring criteria comes from? Where am I gonna spend most of my time? Where most of my pages are gonna come from? So scoring criteria. Statement of need, you're gonna get 20 points for that. So that's your score. Your approach, your program design is 45 points. This goes back, your pre-application. You've done some of your work already with your problem and idea, identifying research. Evaluation is gonna be 10 points. Your organization capacity is gonna be 10 points. Sustainability, how it's gonna be going on after the funding is over, 5 points. Your budget is 10 points. I put asterisks by 20 and 45. That's where the most of your points are coming from. That's where you have to be very careful of what you write, because most of your points are coming from those 2 sections. Now, let's look at the 20 points. What should I consider if team pregnancy is my idea, is my problem? Should I look at team births? Data-wise, not data from 2002, not data from 2005, but current data, which most data you can get now is from 2018 to 2020 as of last fiscal year. In my problem, I'm gonna look at how many teams have repeated birth, teen pregnancy. Am I gonna look at how many teens are unwed mothers by race? Am I gonna look at teen mothers without a high school education, without a high school diploma? Am I gonna look at how many sexual teen infections, better known as STDs, that's with teens now? Am I gonna look at substance abuse misuse for kids? It is a youth substance abuse survey. It's done every year. It's hosted by the Department of Children and Families. What's my age group that I'm gonna serve? What's my target population? Is it gonna be kids in residential facilities? Is it gonna be kids in foster care? What's gonna be my target population? And what's the gaps? And so, are there any programs around me that's doing teen pregnancy? What makes me stand out when I do the gaps in services? Then I'm gonna look at what area I'm gonna serve, what geographical area I'm gonna serve my statement of need. What does demographics say about my area as far as teen pregnancy? What zip codes am I gonna use? What census tract I'm gonna use? What ethnicity I'm gonna use? Who am I serving? African Americans? Am I serving Hispanics, non-Hispanics? Who am I gonna serve? And my service area destination is where I'm housed at, what's going on in my own community, if I serve other counties as well. And also, out of all that data I just talked about up top, is it compared to the state rates? There's a state rate for every data that we talked about, the teen birth, repeat teen pregnancy, unwed mothers. Are the rates higher in my local community than the state rates? I also provide a little graph, a little small graph, and I call the County China, Vera and Johnson. And I looked at some data from Department of Health as far as teen births, as far as age groups, repeated births to mothers. Those are the things that you want to look at. And like I said, go back and read the RFP when it comes to statement of need. There's pages that tell you what you should put in there. And some of those are here because that's my idea, teen pregnancy. So you must make sure that you take out and use, based on the page number, what is more important for you? How are you going to condense all this information in within the number of page limits that you have? I know some agencies have your statement of need can only be 2 pages, single spaced. So you have to make sure that you include important data to show that there is a problem in your community.
Fantastic. Joyce, we have 3 questions that came in. So I figured we could jump in right now and grab some of those. The first question was, are all state grants matched?
No, not all state grants are matched.
Fantastic. And then for the Walmart grants, do you need a local Walmart to apply with them?
For the local Walmart, you apply, but you have to have the store, based on which category you want to apply with, you have to have the store number to put in your application. If you're just doing the local, you have to have the actual store number, which that application goes to that store for them to review.
And then the third question is the scoring criteria the same for all grants?
No, it's not. It's not. It depends on the agency. I've seen scores up to 750 points. So it's not the same every time.
And then there was a question that just came in. What does demonstrated match mean?
Oh, demonstrated match. If there's a requirement for match, that means you may ask for, I'm gonna do an example. If you may ask for $100,000 and they may say 10,000 of your, 10% of your budget has to be matched. That could be in kind. In kind is anything that has a value to it. That could be office space, that could be volunteers, that could be equipment from your partners that you're using. And cash is, if it's a federal funded grant, you can't use cash from another federal grant to match with another federal grant. So you can't use that type. Cash will be your local fundraisers, maybe your local donors to match your project as well.
Fantastic. We'll follow up with one more question and then we'll jump right back in. Do all grants usually have a scoring guide?
State, federal does. Local small organizations do not. I haven't seen any for local small organizations, but your state and federal does.
Fantastic. Another question just came in, but we'll dive right back in and then we'll pause for questions again in a second.
Okay. Here is some data sources that you can use if you're looking to want to know some data sources that you can use just for review. The Department of Health, FloridaCharts.org. They have an actual health profile for each county in the state of Florida that you can look at. You can go online and download it. You know, Florida Kids Count on their website. They have information about kids data as well. As I mentioned before, the Florida Youth Substance Abuse Survey, which is housed in the Department of Children and Families. If you Google just Florida Youth Survey, Substance Abuse Survey, the link will come up. By the Department of Center for Disease Control, the state has to do a youth behavior survey, and that's available on the Department of Health website. If you type in Florida Youth Behavior Survey, it will come up as well. The Department of Juvenile Justice has tons of research for the services they provide in the state of Florida. If you type in, you go to their site and look for the research, you'll see all type of reports It even has reports talking about the number of crimes in schools in each county. You even have the number of juvenile arrests per county, by different circuits or by different counties. Sometimes you can zoom into the neighborhoods as well. Also, there's a United Way Alice report. You can use that for data reference. Census Bureau, Enterprise Florida talks about the different communities in the state of Florida. And Department of Education, which are the stats with different schools data as far as kids failing, reading scores, math scores, all those information dealing with kids' academic performance. This is just some websites that you can use, but there's tons of other data sources. There may be some local resources that you can use that someone else is collecting data in your local community that you can get some information from. Here's one example of just a sample statement of need when it talks about research that you're dealing with. And your statement, you might want to back up your statement, your need, with something else. There's a study that's been done that's been proving that this is really what's happening in the country. This is not a true story. It is a fictional story. So there's no national campaign of pregnancy for 2021 yet. So this is just an example of one statement of need that we crafted just to show how you should put that in your statement of need to show that there's a need. And then the research shows that this what happens when a kid is pregnant. The next example is zip codes by county. I did the local counties that surrounded us, Alachua, Levy, and Marion. It shows that I may address all these counties. I may address kids from all these different zip codes. And what you do once the kids in your services, you would know where they're living by their address and their registrations. And also, if you choose to, you can do census tract. I've known some applications, federal applications, ask for census tract. So that's why I put that there, so you can look at the different areas that you can do of how to track your geographical area in your application. And sometimes you don't have room for graphs. You don't have space for your page limitations. You may not be able to have space for a graph to put in your application as well. That's another thing to consider. In your application, your pre-idea, what are you going to do for your problem statement? What are you going to do to address your problem? This is where you're going to come up with what services you're going to do. What is your approach to addressing your problem? What's your design? So first thing is it an evidence-based programming, or would it be promising programming, or would it be something you created based on you being innovative and you know that this will work in your community? Also, the idea that you have, the program that you're having, is there any research on your program? If you do an evidence-based program is that it's been a rigorous study on it, like a 10-year study. It's been proven to work. Federal government has accepted as a proven program. SAMHSA has a promising evidence-based program listing. Center for Disease Control has an evidence-based programs listing. Most all federal agencies have those listing in at their agency. Also, will your approach really fit the target population? Don't make sure that the age group fit what you want to do. Because if you do an application, I'm doing ages 10 to 19, but my services serve kids 5 to 7. That doesn't align with your program design. Also, in your approach, there are times they may ask for a timeline. What's your milestone? What's your target dates? I know sometimes if you're new, it takes you a while to start a program. Ask for a 60 days implementation process, if that's available to you. Some, you may have to come up with a work design, include your outputs. What are you going to do? What resources you need? What is your short and long-term outcomes? Who's going to be responsible for those things that you listed? That is some of the things that you can talk about in your approach as well. In your approach, you definitely want to talk about recruitment and retention. How are you going to serve the kids? How are you going to reach them? That's very important. With virtual now, it's going to be difficult from the original application that you submitted 3 years ago. And that says, I'm going to go into these sites. And now you can't go into the site. So now you have to change your way of thinking of how I'm going to recruit and retain kids in the programs. Also, your service delivery, is it every day? Is it from 5 to 6? Or is it from 3 to 7? So you want to be detailed about when your service is going to be delivered. Also, reference your target population again. Talk about the location of where the service will be held. What type of sites will they be held at? What type of implementation setting will there be? Also, will your staff need to be trained? Make sure you always include training in your approach, because you want to make sure that your staff is well trained in what they're attempting to implement. Just remember, look at the page limits. Make sure you capture as much information as you can to make your application very strong. Any questions, David?
That was perfect timing. I was just about to pop in. So we do have a question that came in. What is the point of creating a pre-application, and where do you keep it?
The point of having a pre-application is you've had time to think about what you want to do. If you look at the application, if you look at the slide that I put in previously about pre-application and grant application, the pre-application gives you a guideline of what to put in your grant application. You have a starting point before the application comes out. That's why I said the pre-applications make life easier for you.
Fantastic. Had a question that came in privately. With corporate grants like Walmart, Verizon, etc., often these go directly to local stores. In your experience, does it help to connect directly with the store and get them to support you? If so, what is your strategy to do this?
Good question. I've did Walmart before. I went to the local store. I took my annual report, talked to the manager. You only have about 3 to 5 minutes because of this. They're working in the store. I had the application, said, this is what we are. This is who we are. Look at this. We're doing great work in this community. We're over here serving the kids. So please take the time to look at this. I greatly appreciate it. And I kept calling him every day so he could remember my name and my organization. That's how I got funding from Walmart. That was my strategy.
Fantastic. And then another question came in that asks, do you have any data collection resources for arts related grants?
I do not, but I can find some. David and I will look for some. And we'll get
and what I'll tell you is one of the things that I did was when you start to find those data collection resources, save them, right? Save them as a bookmark, because you can go back always and use those in the future. And when they update the data, whether it's a year from now or 2 years from now, it's a great place for you to always go back and you'll use them again in the future. 2 more questions for you, Joyce. With regards to promising programs / innovative, will testimonials suffice for documentation?
There is a website that has promising programs on it. It's through Office of Juvenile Justice Delinquency Prevention, OJJDP, abbreviated, federal funded. They have a site that has promising programs. And innovative is your creative idea of the program that you hope to implement in your community. One state application that I saw, they wanted innovative ideas of what you thought would work in your community.
Fantastic. Now the next question was, will we need to have letters of support or MOUs in the approach / design?
That will be in your organization capacity area.
Those are that wraps up questions for now, and we're good to go.
Awesome. Thank you for the questions. This is a sample approach about the type of program that promising program that will be implemented based on some research that was done. So Caption Love does not exist. It's a fiction. That it will be using the evidence-based curriculum that's been proven to work called Making Choices. There is an evidence-based curriculum called Making Proud Choices, and it's developed by a company called ETR. If you want to look on their website is etr.org. You can see a lot of evidence-based programming there for different areas. This curriculum has 10 lessons, and it's going to target 3,000 youth, and it's from ages 10 to 19. So what you would do is you outline the lessons in the curriculum and show how these lessons tie back to teen pregnancy prevention, my idea. In the pre-application, your idea, your problem. And then you would say how this curriculum aligns with the problem. Just make sure your curriculum and what your idea is align with what your problem is. Evaluation, how do you know it's working? This is good. In small grants like Walmart or Clay does have a annual report with them. Duke Energy, you don't have to do a report with them, but we do a report anyway. Just some small corporations, they really don't require you to do a full evaluation, but it's good to know just in case you want to think about collecting data for yourself internally if it's not required. In your evaluation, you're going to look at, well, how do you know it's working? How do you know you're accomplishing your goals? So we take now in grant writing, there's something called a SMART objective. It has to be specific about what you're doing. It has to be measurable, it has to be achievable, it has to be realistic, and it has to be timely. And I like that because it says achievable, realistic, and timely. There are times when I've seen in my other world, when I was in the process of reviewing grants, achievable, 100% of my kids is gonna have a GPA of 3.8. Is that really achievable in a time period? Is it realistic? Is it timely? Just those things to think about. And also, what type of data you're going to be collecting? Is it going to be attendance from your time signing sheets? Is it going to be doses, how many hours, how many minutes you spend with a child? Or will it be surveys, pre and exit? Or you can talk about what their knowledge was before they got your services, or what their knowledge is after the services? Or were their behavior better after the services? A survey from the beginning of the services. So those are some things you can look at as far as the type of data you want to collect. Also, in data collection, like who's going to collect the data, when would it be collected, how would it be collected? If there will be specific staff designated to do this, or will you have one person doing all the things? Will you collect your data on a monthly basis? Will it be a database on Excel? Will it be a cloud database? Or will you have capacity when your partners maybe to build your database? Those type of things you have to look at as well. And you need to plan on how to collect the data. Will you be compiling it on an annual basis? Will it be on a quarterly basis? Compiling all the data that you have. And also, always be willing to share your data. Everyone wants to know what their age, everybody wants to know what you're doing. You want everybody to know what you're doing. So it's good to have data. It's good to have a one-page report. It's good to have something to share with someone about what you're doing. So many organizations have annual reports, which is great. If you have, there are times when I've gone to a meeting and when I need that year-to-date data. I need data today. What have we done as of today? That has helped us as well. But we also have our annual report. So we share that with our local government, we share with local cities, we share that with local providers, we share it with our partners. So that keeps your partnership as well, and it helps your government learn more about who you are. Here is just a sample of a goal for my teen pregnancy prevention program. It's my idea. And here's my dates of hoping to accomplish it, with 50% of the kids will participate in the program, but I'm going to be using surveys, entry and exit surveys to track my data for this. Any questions? I'm sorry, David.
I am checking, making sure. No new questions yet.
Okay, great. So next, we're going to talk about your organization. In the pre-application, I talk about organization history. So my idea of team proficiency, we're going back to that again. Your organization capacities talks about teamwork. Demonstrate your agency is capable of implementing the program. What are we going to do? What is the history of organization? Again, go back to your page limitations. Make sure you can fit all this in. What is the history of organization? Have you ever created a arts program? Have you ever created a juvenile justice program? Have you ever created a teen pregnancy prevention program? Do you have staff on board that's done this in their past? Do you have staff on board that has experience in what you're doing? What's your leadership like in your organization? Do you have a CEO? Do you have a executive director? What does that looks like? What is the role of the staff that you're going to want to implement in this proposal? What are their responsibilities? How much time are they going to spend on this project? Is it 50%, 25%? Do they have other jobs that you're within your organization? Your board of directors. Most organizations want to know now your board of directors, their name, the affiliations they're with. Your org chart. This is in your pre-application. Develop your org chart. Resumes of your staff that you mentioned. If there's vacancies, one thing about it, you may not have in-house to do the proposal. You may not have somebody in-house to work on your organization. If it's a vacancy, still put the percentage of time, still put what their role and responsibilities are. But then also, while you're doing that, make sure you put how you're going to hire that person in your organization as well. As always, they want to know, can you be accountable with their dollars? That's your fiscal control. Are you doing it in-house? Is it outsourced? What's your fiscal control? What's your accountability as far as managing the funds that you're going to receive? And also, the question that was asked about partners, that's where this goes in your organizational capacity, because they are the ones that help you implement your program to make your program successful. And then you identify their roles. What are their roles in your application? What are they going to do for you in this proposal, which strengthens your application? Just shows the capacity your organization has increased with your partners. Always remember requirements, page limits. There's been times when I've written and gone over the page limit after I realized I had to go back and cut out some things in each section. It gets so difficult, like, oh, that's important, but you have to take something out. But make sure you notice your page limits. Any questions? I'm going. No? Good.
No questions.
Okay. Sustainability, 5 points. What will this program continue after the funding? Funders always want to know, will this survive after they're gone? Who's going to help you sustain this program? What are you going to do? When are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? I know grant funding is sometimes 3 years, 6 months. It's always good to start thinking about sustainability the day that you get your first award letter. That is so critical. Some people think about sustainability 3 months before the grant ends, but sustainability should start the day you get your award. That is so important. Like I said before, working in grants a long time and having programs that function, had 2 year funding, and then they call me at, grant ends in June, they call me in April, says, how am I gonna survive after June? Always start sustainability the day that you get your grant award. This is just another example of sustainability, just a little short paragraph. Talk about Amazing Give, talk about partnering with other organizations with joint applications, talk about training other area organizations so they can work to submit a joint proposal, talk about future funding to sustain the program. You can do additional funding, work with other people, not you be the person that apply, someone else apply, but they're doing the exact same thing that you were doing, a component that you were doing. So that's one way to talk about sustainability as well. Just remember, sustainability is the day you get your actual grant award. Budgets. What do you need to implement your program? And these are just some categories that are very common in the grant world. personnel, of course. As I go through this list, categories, I'm going to talk about what we talked about previously. In your personnel, the person that you list as the staff experience in your organization capacity has to be the person that's in your budget. If it's a project director at 100%, in your personnel, it's a project director at 100%. If it's an administrative assistant at 10% or 25%, that person has to be in your budget for administrative assistant for 25%. I've seen where you have staff in your organizational capacity, but they're not mentioned in your budget as well. Fringe benefits could be your federal taxes, it could be your insurance, it could be dental, vision, whatever package your organization has, you can put that in your grant application. Travel, you can have travel in your budget as well, which is common. Some agency, if you get awarded, sometime in their RFP, in their request for proposal, they tell you what out-of-state travel, like conferences that you can go to, in-state conferences you can go to. Since we're virtual, everything's online now. So, but you do get money for travel. If you have a state grant, you have to go by the Florida statutes, what the Florida statute rates are for travel, which is 0.445 for the state. Federal is based on the city that you're in. So make sure you think about that as well. Trainings, is there any training needed for your organization, your staff to be trained in what you want to do? What type of supplies you need for your office and the program, what type of equipment you may need. That includes reading a copier, that includes buying a copier, computer equipment, based on what your needs are in your organization. It always reflect, your budget must reflect what your approach is doing. Communication could be telephone, cell phone, internet, all those things in communication. Utilities in your space that you have or the space that you're leasing. Everybody should have a background screening done. That's allowable. Media advertising, how you want to advertise your services and your organization, the program that you're implementing. Printing also is allowable. Some, not all, have community events that you can host. Because of COVID, we can't do community events right now. But some agencies that you have community events, they have allowable costs for that. You can lease vehicles in some proposal based on if that organization or that agency as allowable costs. Payroll processing, that's important because you want to make sure that someone, just my suggestion, someone outside process your payroll for accountability purposes. And also you can have contracted staff, if you're doing team apprenticing, you can have facilitators, you can contract out with them. You can contract out evaluators, you can contract out staff if need be. Some funders let you do program incentive for the kids. I've heard, not my organization, I've heard that some programs that receive federal funding actually bought iPads for their kids. Amazing. Some, you can also charge rent or lease a facility. And if your organization hope to spend over $750,000 a year, you're required to have an audit. Also, your fiscal control, your monthly reconciliations of your monthly accounting procedures can be in-house or outsourced. I would suggest be outsourced to someone that's not opening the mail, their bank statements, or going online to get the bank statements. Organization must have insurance, at least your general insurance, that's allowable. Educational materials for the kids to use, our staff, promotional materials as well. Some let you do field trips and some don't. And then just kind of go other. Whatever that we miss in the top, we can put it in other. So those are your basic categories for budgets. Just make sure your budget aligns with your program. That's the most important point. And this is similar to a budget summary of all your categories. Here is an example of a budget summary of the top of the categories and the budget narrative at the bottom. The personnel is $30,000. And there's 100% in the narrative. You can put that person as 100% at $30,000. The fringe benefits, 7.65 FACA. And you're going to calculate that out, $30,000 times 0.0765, which give you your 2295. Also up top, your travel is 1,068 in your summary. You're going to break that out in your narrative. Maybe I'm estimating 200 miles per month times 0.445, which is a state rate, times 12 months for 1 year of services. That's how much that program director would get reimbursed. Your equipment up top in your summary is $2,100. And your summary, your narrative down below, each laptop will cost $700. You're going to buy 3 of those, but 3 of those, make sure you have staff that's saying that they will use those laptops. That's $2,100. Media advertising is $1,500. I'm going to do television for $750. And we have 2 of those semi-annually, and it's going to equal $1,500. Your summary and your narrative much match. Your narrative is breaking out the cost of your summary. Oh, sorry. Take me back, David.
I'm not muted. If you hit the left button, it should go backwards.
Maybe I can go here. Sorry. Oh, good. Any questions on budget?
I do have questions that did come in. And let me go back and start with the first one. First question, how can you track qualitative information when you serve a constant changing population? For instance, at each event, we serve a different set of girls. Some have attended our previous events, but not all. Currently, we offer a survey at the end of the events, but I am not sure if I'm overlooking other ways to collect data that would demonstrate the impact of our programs. I know we must demonstrate the impact in order to receive grant funding and even take it a step further to demonstrate scalability. So again, how can you track qualitative information when you serve a constant changing population?
For quantitative, are you using sign-in sheets? The number of kids that you come in every day in your building, or the number you just serve? That's one way for quantitative, the number you serve as well. And then you look at, you have the surveys at the end. I would suggest you do surveys at the beginning as well, or do a satisfaction survey, maybe 5 questions that you can give to them 1 day of service, and they can do it that way as well. It's various ways. It's not a concrete way because every program is different. It's just find out what's best fits you.
Fantastic. I had another question about sustainability. Sustainability is almost an impossible objective, especially as a startup nonprofit. How hard do they look at this criteria?
As a startup organization, I would suggest they do look at it because they hope to have you ready to go ongoing. That's why it's great to have partners. That's where your partners play a major role in your sustainability as well. Like I said, at the very beginning, once you get your award, start thinking about sustainability, not because you're new, because you have partners when you started. So I would say meet with your partners on a regular basis and think of other ways, creative ways, innovative ways to sustain that project.
Thank you. Do you have suggestions where we can find grants that will offer assistance with administrative and operational expenses? Most organizations usually want to fund programs.
I don't have any right off, but I can name right now, but that's a search that we would have to do. I would suggest that, using the library, the Foundation Center, they do have some foundations that do fund those. I would suggest going there and look up that capacity building and organization and general operating expenses.
Mute myself again. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And those were, I have one question that just came in. What are examples of innovative ways to sustain a project?
Fundraising is one. Taking them, you may have a component where you're doing, I'm just giving you an example. You may have an organization or your program may be homework assistance, it may be life skills, it may be STEM projects. So you're gonna work with your partners to see which one of those services is more impactful in your organization and working with your partners to sustain that project and either searching for more funding with your partners or have your partners look at funding as well, and you all come together and see how that fits with each of your organizations and your services.
All right. And then let's see. Another question that came in regarding sustainability. Most funding organizations want documentation that reflects that you can continue to operate and run your programs, even after receiving funding from them. However, the truth is you need their money. So how much of your budget should this grant support? For instance, is it okay if the grant accounts for 85% of your budget, 50%, 30%?
Depends on what program you're doing. If you, our organization, about 90% of ours is grant. It's been that since 2002. So and we're sustaining some of our programs that were grant funded through other programs as well. We incorporated those programs in other programs.
That's it for now.
Awesome. Thanks for the questions. Also, the very last document is the wrap up, the summary of everything that you put together. And that is your abstract or called executive summary. It's usually a one-pager. And all it talks about is what you put in your application. You're just summing it up in one page. And that's talk about your agency name, the contact person, your mission and vision, what's the problem statement, what areas you're going to serve, what program you're going to implement, what's your service delivery, how many lessons they're going to have, what's your evaluation, what's your goals of the project, who's your main staff person, and most of all, how much money you're asking for. That is the front page of your application. That's telling them a whole lot, and then they're looking for those things in your full proposal. So, are there any more questions?
I did have one additional question that came in earlier. If you guys do have questions, please place them in the chat. You can send a direct message to myself and I'll make sure we get them over to Joyce. The question that I had from earlier was, can you explain what an MOU is? It's
a memorandum of understanding. It talks about the purpose of it, what is with your partners. It's an agreement between you and your partners. It tells what your role is. It tells what their role is. And that's the agreement you have for your proposal, for your application, and for your program. I can give you an example. I will use HPW Coalition. They are, if I'm doing teen pregnancy prevention, they do a lot of events. They will be responsible for marketing our program. They will be responsible for helping us with our outreach services and helping us collect data. And our proposal, our purpose is to provide them with the information about our organization, provide staff to help them with their outreach events, and help them collect the data for them as well. So it's an agreement between your partners and saying what the roles and responsibilities are for each one of you.
Fantastic. I had another question that came in. The abstract executive summary. This is the front page or last page of the grant application?
It's the front page. I put at the last page of this because it's the wrap up of everything you've written previously. It's hard to write that at the beginning because it sums up everything you have in your proposal. It's the front page.
And then I had questions that came in. Sorry about the phone ringing, guys. In regards to sample grants, can you give a copy of a sample grant application, and are we able to provide small or large awarded grant proposals?
Repeat the question again.
Can you give a sample grant or give a copy of a sample grant application? I think that that should be between, we can find a sample grant application and I'll attach that to some of the services. One of the things that I'll also say, just diving into that, is that we are sending a monthly email out through a grants challenge. And if you're interested in that initiative, please feel free to email me. I'll have Jessica put my email address in the chat real quick. And that will give you a list of grants that are readily available for each month and the following month coming up. And that's a great way to see examples of sample grants that are out there, but actual live grants that are available. Okay, this next question came in. Will you be educating the group on the National Charities Information Bureau data regarding actual administrative and fundraising expenses need to be at or below 25%, since this also affects grant funding opportunities?
At the present time, not doing this series.
Okay, fantastic. And then can you give us some more examples of sustaining a project?
Okay. My best history is with the people I'm connected to. My relationships is the way that our projects are sustained. Disseminating information, constantly being in the view of people and learning about who you are. You can't sustain anything in a vacuum. Always remember that. Try to be connected in every organization, go to county meetings, go to city meetings, and be available to ask questions, ask about your organization, have a great statement about your organization so the conversation can continue on. Don't tell them what you're doing at first, make them ask you questions in your conversation. That's my best way of doing it. So I want people to wonder what I'm doing. And then by the whole conversation, they're like, oh, really? So I think that's a good way to do it. Connect to people, connect to other organizations, and connect to your partners, your stakeholders, some of the champions in your community, and connect that way.
Thank you, Joyce. It looks like there aren't any additional questions that have come in. In regards to the samples, what we'll make sure we do is I will go through, look at some samples and share those with you guys as well. Joyce, I'll let you take it from here.
Sure. Our next exciting workshop will be held March 16th, and that will be management and being successful once you receive your award. I hope each of you will join us. We're excited about it. Like we said, if you attended all 3 sessions, you have an opportunity to apply for the Community Foundation's grant announcement that they're going to be putting out. And also, I hope you have been approved through the Philanthropy Hub, because Amazing Give is coming out. I tell you, I have so much fun Amazing Give. Our organization is like so excited about Amazing Give right now. Once we got our approval last week, we started working on Amazing Give already. So had a board meeting. We've got strategies on our board meeting, but Amazing Give is happening during the workday this year. It's April 22nd, 2021. So Leslie and David and the group and Barcella will be sending out information about it. Please, please, please get approved so you can join the fund for Amazing Give.
That is fantastic and segues directly into what we have to wrap this up today. Like Joyce said, the Amazing Give is coming up April 22nd in 2021. It will run from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. It's a 12-hour workday edition. Terry, just saw your question come in. The Amazing Give is our community's giving day. So it's typically a 24-hour period where everyone gives to the nonprofits. We raise awareness for the nonprofits here in our community. Last year, there were 114 organizations that participated, raising over $1.4 million. Truly fantastic. So in order to participate in the Amazing Give, Joyce, I'm going to, I'm going to stop sharing your screen and come over to my screen real quick and share my screen with you guys. You'll see here that the Philanthropy Hub is the way that you can become registered for the Amazing Give. Now, with the Philanthropy Hub, it's a free tool here for our nonprofit community that helps promote the nonprofits here in our area, specifically with the donors in our community that are looking to connect with folks. It's going to allow you to put in detailed information about your organization, where you can update in real time and share your story, whether that is programs that you guys are currently offering, what your greatest need is in the community, what your board looks like, who's serving on your board, so people in the community have a better understanding of what it is that you guys are doing. Now, to do this, to register for the Philanthropy Hub, it's a really simple process. You just go to thephilanthropyhub.org, which Jessica already put in the chat. If you are not on the system, what you'll do is you'll just go ahead and click apply now. Let my computer move a little bit faster. And then what you'll do is you'll search for your organization. If your organization does not show up, it'll take you through the registration process. Now, what I want to do is show you guys on the back end what that actually looks like, because this is what the Community Foundation, we as a whole actually are doing this ourselves. You'll go through the verification process and you'll see that it says verified by the Community Foundation here. This means that we've gone through and looked at your information. To get to this step, the first thing you'll need to do is complete that application, right? Send over the form, and then members of our team, Leslie, will actually go through the process and get it so you have all your registration documentation. At that point, you're going to go through and start filling out each category that we have listed. Right now, there's about 120 fields for you to fill and complete. But it's simple stuff that you guys have had on hand, or you will need to have on hand when it comes to like the grant writing process. So your mission statement, a brief history, your strategic goals, right? We'll ask you to upload your annual report if you have it. If you're a new nonprofit and you don't have it, that's perfectly fine. We just ask that you upload a PDF saying that you're a new nonprofit, right? What you'll do is you'll work your way through each one of these tabs: the management section, government section, finance, programs, development being fundraising, and then more details. Once you complete every part of the application, you'll submit it, and then our team will verify it, and then you're good to go. And then we can send you the registration link for the amazing gift. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact us at the foundation. You can reach out to me at droundtree@cfncf.org. Jessica has placed that in the chat. And Jessica, if you'll go ahead and add the office email address, we can work with you on getting you registered for the Philanthropy Hub. And there's also trainings. Let me go back here. That's why I can't see it, because I have all of your wonderful faces over, over the menu. But if you come over here, there's trainings. And this will teach you how to go through the process of registering your nonprofit on the Philanthropy Hub. It talks about the additional trainings that are coming up. And then here for our nonprofits, there's additional information on how to load your information onto the site. So again, if you have any questions about the Philanthropy Hub, this is a great way to kind of track the materials that you guys need, any of the grants that are coming in. You'll also have the ability to show the funding that's coming in for your organization, and then also share your need with the community. It's a great resource. I'm trying to click on a tab, but it is under the toolbar for Zoom. Give me 1 second, I'll move that over. But here again, under overview, it shares your information. You can type in your greatest need right here and share that with the community. And then there's also a donate button where those funds go directly into your bank account within 3 to 5 days, and the Community Foundation sees none of the information from your donors, and we receive none of the funds from it. So again, it's just another resources that we're providing out to the community. If you have any questions, please reach out. We're more than willing to answer any questions you have. And with that, I'd like to thank you guys all again for attending this presentation this morning. There was one last question that I saw came in that says, do you have to be a member of a chamber to take part? You don't have to be a member of the chamber. You just need to be a nonprofit with 501c3 with an EIN number. So again, thank you guys very much for attending. Our next session is March 16th from 9 to 10:30 a.m. Our registration link will be sent out to you over the next week or so. We'll provide the slides and materials from today. And if you have any questions, thank you. Please reach out. And thanks again to Joyce for the wonderful content that you shared with us. And yeah,
Thank you.
that is all. Thank you guys. Have a great day.
See you March 16th.
Thank you.